Hello and welcome to the Local Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson. The Local Leaders Podcast provides a platform for successful business owners to share their stories, their experiences, their advice, and their ideas in order to help our listeners achieve more success in their business and in their lives. Get ready, another great show is coming up. Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Local Leaders Podcast. This is Jeff Johnson. I'm your host today, and I am excited today to bring you someone all the way from Nebraska who actually came a whole lot further. This is Bes Gjoka, and his restaurant is Florio's Italian Restaurant and Grill. And welcome, Bes. We're glad to have you here, and thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Thank you for having me in, and I'm very excited to be part of the show as well.
Well, we're thrilled to have you because we love talking to restaurateurs and entrepreneurs who have kind of been there and done that. And what I'd love to do to start the show is just have you tell us a little bit about Florio's and kind of your history and how you got started and anything else that you might want to share about the business.
Yep. I'll be more than happy to share that. So, Florio's, as you can tell, like the name Florio's is actually a name of a person who started the restaurant. When the restaurant started, I was not part of it, even though I did know the guys that started it. Mm-hmm. So it has been in Lincoln for about 8 years now, and I have been the owner of it the past 5 years, maybe a little bit more than 5 years. So the guys that started it, there was two of them. One of them left kind of right away within the first 6 months. He just decided to do some other stuff. And the other guy, whose name was Florio, he stayed with it for a little bit, and then I came along. Then I came along and took over for the first guy that left. And I just saw the potential of it, and I saw some ways that I could improve it and do some things a little bit differently than how they were done in the past. At first, I started as a hostess, and I moved into serving, and then eventually I took over the business. So
you're a real story from the ground up. You kind of came. It's like starting as a dishwasher, and and moving all the way up through the business.
Yes, that's true. And that actually, when they moved locations, so when they moved to this location where it is now, I actually did help quite a bit moving stuff. Like all the cooking equipment and tables and all that for a little bit. I never saw myself as becoming a restaurant owner, but here I am now.
Yeah, and then what? 5 years later, too, or 5 short. Well, you said you've had it for 5 years, so yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's a great story. Well, that kind of leads me to a question because I'm wondering if. For someone who's maybe not had a ton of restaurant experience, or even if they have, would you recommend that they start at the bottom kind of and work their way up? And how did that help you in taking over the business?
There's like benefits and challenges to it because, starting as a hostess, I did get to learn some things that probably I would not have get to learn if I would have started as a business owner right away. Right. So I got my hands into the basic stuff, which, like throughout the way for small businesses, like the one that I have, sometimes it's tough to have all the information because we don't have the capital. Starting a small restaurant, unlike some chains, we don't have the capital to have everything kind of figured out beforehand. So we just have to learn as we're working. So if you start as an owner, sometimes you might start with the wrong mindset, saying that I just got to tell people what to do. And sometimes you don't know what people need. So, starting as a hostess, moving to serving, bartending, like I also worked in the back cooking. I've basically had to learn everything. And now that I'm not doing any of them full time, I'm just helping a little bit everywhere. Right. This gives me a better perspective to know, what's needed at each position.
Yeah. Well, I think that's valuable input because when you're there on the front lines, you learn pretty quick, what it takes to do that job, and so it probably helps you in selecting, new employees for those positions, and you just kind of really understand what's going on. So I applaud you for being able to come in as the hostess, and suddenly no time has passed, and you're now the owner of a great
Yeah,
restaurant.
yeah. Thank you. It has been fun and challenging.
Yeah,
There's some good and bad times, just like I would say any other business.
yeah. Well, tell me real quick. You just give me a quick rundown on the restaurant itself, type of food, what days you're open, all that kind of good stuff for the folks that are nearby that maybe haven't tried you yet.
Yeah, definitely. So we're open. We were actually open 7 days a week, but Monday through Thursday we do not open. We open at 4 o'clock, and we close the kitchen at 8:30. And Friday, Saturday, we open at 11 a.m. until 9:30, and then Sunday we open at 11 a.m. until 8:30.
Okay.
And we're specialized on, or what the main thing that we serve is pasta dishes with uh, Italian food, mostly pasta dishes. We recently added pizza into our menu because we added pizza during COVID, only as takeout, and we got some pretty good feedback. So we added that on our menu as well. But still, people like to stick with our pasta dishes. We do cook each order. We cook each meal to order, so we don't have any. Well, besides lasagnas, which you have to get them ready ahead of time.
Yeah.
But we do pride ourselves onto delivering fresh food.
That's awesome. I am a pasta fan. I love my carbs, and shrimp and pasta, and chicken
Yeah.
and pastas, and I'm an angel hair pasta kind of guy. That's the one I like.
Okay. Yes, we do have that on the menu as well, and that's probably one of our most popular pastas.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about the restaurant, and like I said, it's good for people who I'm sure when maybe not everybody in town has tried it yet, or those from out of town, but the few that haven't been there yet over the years, please get down to Florio's and have a wonderful meal with Bess as soon as possible. They're waiting for you.
Yes, we always are.
Yeah,
But
and I'm sorry I interrupted you. I was just going to say, you mentioned something interesting about adding pizza during COVID, and I've talked to a lot of owners, about how they coped with and dealt with the COVID, the pandemic, and were you guys? I'm not familiar with Nebraska exactly the laws, but how long were you guys shut down, or were you shut down?
So our dining room was shut down for, I would say, 3 months, maybe a
Mm,
little bit over 3 months, but we were never fully shut down. So we were able to do takeout,
right.
which it was great. That helped us quite a bit. I mean, would have been really tough without it, but
Yeah.
we
No.
were not fully shut down. So we're thankful that at least we could do takeout during those times.
Well, that was that was an adaptation. You had to adapt to survive, probably.
Yes, it was, and I moved, I would say, quick as soon as I learned that things are going to be shut down. As soon as I realized that everything was going to be takeout, our dining room. As soon as I realized that our dining room was going to be closed, which there was 99% of our business before COVID. We did have some takeout, but
Mm,
nothing that we really counted on. So
right.
right away, I updated the website. I made online ordering available, and I think that was probably the best step I took those first week.
Well,
And
that.
that was very important because we have one line, and
Mhm.
if you have one line, there's very hard to take multiple orders at a time. Whereas online, multiple people could have just gone online at the same time and placed an order in. So
Right. Right. Yeah, that was a good move, and a lot of people kind of hesitated and waited, and didn't immediately make that change, and it really hurt because I mean, when it shut down, it shut down.
yes,
uh,
yes, yeah. It was just what was as I said, like, it was tough. Like, there were people calling throughout the whole day, and people are like, well, I've been waiting on the line for, 30
Yeah.
minutes. I'm like, I'm sorry, we just have one line. No,
Yeah.
we can just talk to one person at a time. But
Yeah, exactly. But the online ordering made a big difference in that
yes,
case.
it did. It did.
And did you do curbside pickup as well, or?
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
We did. We
yeah,
did do curbside.
that was a change probably for you as well, trying to figure out the logistics around it. I know a lot of owners I talked to, it was, logistically, it was just difficult to try to figure that out and get the traffic flowing through and figure out how to know who ordered what. And um,
Yep, we did face quite a bit of that, where just have where we put out our dishes, like you just have an area filled with all kinds of different pastas, and once they are closed, then it's just a little bit hard to figure out what's in what, and just slows everything down. So we
yeah,
did go through a learning curve, but once we figured it out, once we got better at it, dining room open. So now the takeout is not the same as before, like as it was during COVID. It's a little
right.
bit more than before COVID, but not. It has slowed quite a bit.
Yeah, but still now you've got two business models kind of going with, you got the in-house or inside dining, and then you got the off premises or takeout food. So
Uh,
congratulations and kudos to
well,
you
thank
guys
you,
for adapting.
thank you.
Hey, let me ask you, and this one might make you have to think for a second, and that's fine. And
Okay.
our listeners, love to hear about how business owners who've been successful, some of the challenges that maybe they face during their ownership. But was there one or two things that outside of COVID, because I know COVID was a challenge,
Yes.
what else keeps you up at night or is challenging in terms of owning a restaurant? What's your kind of biggest thing?
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's different for everyone, I would say. So, some people, like, there's times where you're worried about, the restaurant staffing, like there is, recently, so we use tablecloths we put tablecloths on all our tables.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty important feature of our dining experience. And recently, our linen company, they had a fire. So now we have been out with tablecloths for about, I would say, almost 3 weeks. And, that's kind of worrisome because you don't know what other people are thinking. Like a new guest can come in and be like, well, this place is down the hill. Now they moved the linen closet. Like you don't know what a person. So something like that, would definitely like keep you worried, keep you up at night.
Mm-hmm.
Which those challenges, they come and go. They come, they get solved, they go. But main thing that I usually worry most about is just balancing, home life and work life.
Yeah.
That seems to be, like as I said, other challenges. You are short couple employees. You're worried for a week, 2 weeks until you get that figured out. Then obviously there is no day that I expect that I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna have no challenges. I
Right.
will probably be a very boring day. So I'm pretty much basically prepared that I know that every day there's gonna be a problem that I would need to solve.
Yeah. Well,
But the main thing, yeah.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you again. I didn't mean to do that.
No, that's fine.
I was just going to go back to that work-life balance piece. How are you handling it? Because that's the biggest problem with restaurant owners is they have no life. So many of them.
Yes,
So
yes. To
how are
be
you?
honest,
Yeah, how are you doing it?
right now I have sort of found a balance. I mean, there is never, perfect balance. I first in the beginning, like the first couple years, I was here, open to close every day, and I got married the first year that I became the restaurant owner, which was fine then. My wife, she was a teacher. She had been teaching for a couple of years, but she's still in the process of, you know, figuring things out. So she worked on her job. I worked at mine in the evenings. We'd just come and hang out at the restaurant, do her school work while I did my work. And, we found a balance, being able to see each other. But then once we had a kid, then everything changed. So
Yeah.
Yes, because
Yeah.
you don't want to bring a newborn at the restaurant to hang out with you. So,
Yeah.
but I've been able to stay home for about 3, 4 times a week, most weeks, not every week. There is weeks that I'm here every day. There is weeks that I might come one day. It just
Yeah.
depends on staffing, which lately I'm sure other business owners you have talked to, I'm sure they're struggling with it just like any
Yeah.
other place.
Yeah. Well, staffing has been the number, really, probably from what I've heard, the number one problem, of course, right now is all across the U.S. is staffing, and there's
Yes,
not enough people who want to go to work, and it's a challenge. And owners have approached that in different ways. Some have cut back their hours. Some have cut days out of the schedule. Rather than 7 days a week, now they close Monday or Tuesday or both.
yes, yes,
So there's different ways to try to overcome that problem, but it's still there. But the fact that you're able to create some work-life balance, I'm thinking that you must have at least a couple of good, solid, dependable um, leaders or workers that you count on.
yes,
Is that
yes,
fair
I
to
do.
say?
Yes, that's I do like at the back of the house. I have two people that have been working here for more than 3 years, about 3.5 years now, and they're pretty reliable. They are always on time. They're always performing well. And same in the front of the house. I do have few people that step up when is needed. And another approach that I take, which like I'm sure will make a lot of restaurant owners cringe, is first I get a new employee and I trust them 100%. Every new employee I get, my first instinct is to trust them, because if I cannot trust them, then we just and they shouldn't be there. There is times where I get disappointed, and that you just have to let the person go. But if they're gonna work here, I'll let them um, basically handle things on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell them that I'm here to help you, not do your job, not tell you every second what you need to do. You made a mistake. I make more mistakes than anybody should make. So I just realized that those are things that are gonna happen. Some guests, like when there is a mistake, some guests understand and some don't. Which me being over a employee's head constantly is not gonna change the guest perspective. What I try to tell them is just take any moment, whether good or bad, and turn it into a good moment. When I have served some of the best customers that have, well, some of the most loyal customers that have been coming back, it has happened through a mistake that I made. I made a
Ah,
mistake. I just made a good point of making sure that, take care of it in the moment. Just tell them, like, own up to the mistake and make it up to them. And a lot of time people, they do understand that things happen, but if you do the right thing, then it just makes them feel even bad. Well, it makes them feel good that they're being understood and acknowledged, and not just it's
right.
not that employees just being scolded because they made a mistake. The point is to just make it up, make it right to the customer.
Well, I mean, you're exactly right, and it sounds like so often when you read books and things, you see all these leadership styles and all this stuff about leadership, and your style is probably a lot more like mine actually, in that we don't want to tell people how to do their jobs and give them every step of the way. We hire people that are smart and smart enough to be able to know that
Yes.
how to do what they're doing, and you just expect them to do it. But the challenge is making sure that they have initiative and that they're gonna take ownership. I think that's the
Yeah.
hardest thing, is getting employees to take that same level of ownership that you have and
Yes.
and feel that themselves. And if you can get that with your employees, then you have done something special. And it sounds like you've kind of done that.
At some level, like what I
Yeah.
have realized is if you if you um, give people freedom, for the most part, most of the people are gonna take pride in it, and they are just gonna own up to their actions,
Right.
which because obviously what it comes down to, what I believe is, we just want personal freedom, and nobody appreciates somebody telling you what to do at every second. And at least myself, I work better when I'm the one just um, doing the thing, fix it by mistakes, or just doing the right thing rather than for myself, rather than doing it because somebody else is telling me that that's what you
Yeah.
need to do. And I believe that most of the people at least, thrive on that as well.
Well, and I like what you said about trusting people. And I've known some folks who are exactly the opposite. They don't trust people to begin with, and you have to earn their trust, right? So that's kind of the
Yes.
opposite side. But it's interesting and where I was going with that is that the way that you kind of handle that, you're trusting people, you're enabling them to do their job. They're kind of taking their own initiative and ownership. And that's what gives you the ability to have some work-life balance, I think.
Yes. Oh, yes. I mean, I do understand that as well.
Yeah.
As I said, like when I first started, the previous owners, like one of them, like I would hear stories from other employees that were still here. Like he literally would, because at that time the restaurant was open 7 days a week, 11 to 10. Like he would get off work, sleep in his car, even though he had a home, he would like sleep in his car outside the restaurant, just wake up, come right back in, but it was like the kind of person that everything could be done differently in the sense that, if you're filling a water glass one way, he would come and tell you, no, you got to fill it the other way,
Yeah.
which, yeah, it's just like there are some people like that just feel like they have to be involved with everything at all moments. And I just cannot do that because it's not beneficial for anyone.
Yeah, and I think the advice here is that for those of you who are listeners who are business owners who are like so many people who have control issues, they want to be in control, or you want to be in control of everything. It's going to be very difficult for you to find any balance because you always have to be there to control it.
Yes.
So if you can try to adapt your thinking a bit and release some of that control to others, then you've got a better chance anyway of finding some balance in your life. And that's what we're about here. We want you to succeed in business, but we also want you to succeed in life, and they have to work together. So
yes, even in business, you cannot, if you are in the kitchen, you cannot control what's happening in the front of the house and vice versa.
Right.
So it's just, even if you spend all day in the restaurant, it's still like that level of control is just impossible because you're one person and you can only be at one place at a time.
Yeah,
so
well, that's true, and
yes.
and especially, can you imagine those control? And I don't mean this derogatorily, but the control freaks that are out there. Can you imagine those with 10 different locations?
No.
They're trying to run all over the towns and cities and keep everything under control. Well, it's great. Thank you for sharing those thoughts. And hey, I got another question that a lot of people email me or ask me about periodically, and I started trying to ask a little bit. In terms of your restaurant, and where I'm going with this is how do you measure success? What are you looking at in terms of, are you looking at sales numbers? Are you looking at profits? Are you looking at cost of goods? What are the things you look at to determine whether or not you're running successfully?
Well, I mean, it's definitely sales numbers. That's the main thing that I look at. And the other thing is, at the end of the month, once you have paid all the bills, we look at to make sure that this month you didn't work for free, right?
Yeah.
So just profit. Yes, that's sales and profit. Now I do keep a pretty, especially now when it comes to costs, because everything, especially food supplies, they have the prices. They are just outrageous right now.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I do look at different vendors. I actually pick up quite a bit of stuff myself, just because like big companies like Cisco, US Foods, their prices are just a little bit out of control at the moment. And to be honest, like I had just updated the menu and increased the prices by a little bit, but now I definitely have to do it again because it's just the food cost is running a little bit too high.
Yeah. So you gotta, especially now, and there's food shortages, on different products and different things, which is,
There is.
well, at least supposedly that's driving up prices. I guess we'll never know for sure.
I know. That's what I was telling
Yeah.
my sales rep. I'm like, how are you guys like? How do you think this is? How do you think this is good for anyone? Like those prices are triple what they were 2 months ago, 3 months ago. I cannot triple my prices in like 2 weeks. But
Yeah.
hopefully things
It's tough.
calm down a little bit.
And see, I'm always asking the question. I've got a favorite place I live in a small town, and we go to a restaurant that's known for their wings, and they were have been experiencing a wing shortage up this way. And my question is, why do you not have wings, but you got chicken breasts running out of the freezer? There's still the same number of chickens out there. And I just don't quite get it. But apparently, there's been a wing shortage, and people are doing. We even had one. I heard one restaurant advertising on the radio locally about, instead of buffalo wings, they were doing buffalo breasts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had made the change and got off the wing and went to the breast. And I'm sure it was food prices, and availability.
Yes, it is. It's food prices lately have been, everything has gone up.
Yeah.
Even stuff that you're like, what really? But
yeah, and
sure some.
What do you see? Do your customers? Do you get feedback from customers on your pricing very often? Do they make statements to you about, hey, why you keep going up on us?
I mean, I haven't gone up as much. So as I said, like I did a little bit of an increase about 2.5, 3 months ago, but that was before things really jumped off the roof.
Yeah.
So the plan is to update the menu. I should have had it updated now, but as I said, try getting that work-life balance. My wife being a teacher, she has summers off, which means that I don't get to do, and we keep the kids from daycare at home during the summer, so that just means I don't get to do a lot of work during the 2 summer months that they are home, which is perfectly fine because I enjoy my mornings with the kids. But
yeah,
I am kind of curious to know what's going to happen once I increase the prices. I am sure people are going to make a comment about it, but
well, so some will, and most of us understand that everything else goes up too. I mean, look at toilet paper. It's
yes.
It's way up there. I just bought a pack of that the other day at Walmart, and it was like $16 for a thing of toilet paper. So
And that's.
I mean, we know it, but still, yet there are always people who will complain about it. But it sounds like you're doing everything you can to try to minimize those passing those prices on, and that's what I'm hearing. We're changing our menu. We're taking a few items out of the menu. We're trying to make it simpler.
Yes, that's just. I mean, there could be no end to it if everybody starts, just increasing the prices. Then that's where does it stop?
Yeah, exactly. And
so that's like part of it. I go and actively like just go and pick up items myself rather than order everything and have it delivered. It takes me some time, but it is, like you said, it's worth it not passing those prices if I can help it to the customers.
I actually made a note of that as a strategy of doing a little more local shopping yourself and cutting out that middleman and cutting out the food distributor and getting what you can locally and picking it up yourself. And I mean, that's a good strategy. And I mean, I'm sure it saves you several percentage points every time you do it.
It does save quite a bit. It is. And also the plus side of it is also that you're using fresher products instead of getting like big bulks of, cucumbers or lettuce or bell peppers. You get smaller amounts, which you have to get them more often, but at the same time, every time you're cooking them, they are fresher. So
Yeah,
that
exactly.
also adds to the, increase the food quality.
The food quality and the value and experience your customer is going to get when they come and have your food, your meals. Let me ask you this: Are you looking at? And I know now is not a great time to think about growing or anything like that. Are you looking toward the future and thinking about doing anything with Florio's in terms of expansion?
I mean, I do think and not think about it. It just depends. There's a lot of times where I wake up in the morning, I drive to work, I'm a pessimist, and I drive back from work, I'm a optimist. Just, sometimes the day beats you down. But
Yeah.
there is times where I do, but for the moment, just I have a 1.5-year-old and a 3-year-old. That just doesn't give me a lot of time to expand. So right now, I'm just working at this, keeping it as it is, at least for the time being, until the kids are a little bit older. And maybe in the future I would expand.
One of a gentleman from Texas I spoke to a few weeks ago, he had a good analogy, and he was talking about, anytime you think about expanding your business, you've got to really think about what you're doing here. And what you're doing is you're trading time for money.
Yes.
And is it worth it?
They said it well. Yes.
Yep. And I had never thought of it like that, but I thought that was a great piece of advice, because it's absolutely true. And it's hard to get balance when you keep trying to get bigger, right? It
is. Yeah. It is, especially if you have young kids. You do not want to trade your kids' time for more money, because, I'm sure.
Yeah.
If you give as much money as you can to my 3-year-old, he's not gonna care about it. He just wants to hang out with me and his brother and mom.
Yeah, exactly. Wants his daddy.
Yes.
Wants dad to be home. So
that's true.
So just to kind of head toward wrapping up, our conversation, you shared a lot of ideas already and your experience, and that's the key thing to share. And I think it's inspiring for our audience to talk to someone who's gone from hostess to owner. And I've talked to folks who started in the dish sink, and moved up from there as well. And no matter where you start, it's always inspiring for people to grow and get better and find success. But I'm just thinking of some of our viewers who are maybe thinking about starting or opening up a new restaurant. Is there anything that you would tell them if they came to you and said, should I do this? Is this something I want to do? And if so, what advice would you give me?
I mean, I would encourage, obviously, I have had friends come with that idea, and I would encourage anyone to do it. It's just, there is freedom that comes with it, and there is a lot of responsibility. So the main thing that they should be aware of, which some people kind of underplay it, is the first couple years, 3 years, you got to be prepared to work, open to close. And even after that, you got to stay late. Just make sure that, you understand what happened throughout the day, what could be changed, work on the menu, different items, pricing. And just the fact that, if you don't understand something, it's difficult to kind of relate to somebody else to do it. So,
right.
I've had a couple of people that, there were 2 brothers that started the place. They actually came from Albania, and they started a creperie, which, is you cannot train a lot of people to open a crepe. So I'm like, hey, buddy, this is a great idea. I'm pretty sure it's gonna go well, but you just got to be prepared that, you're gonna be open to close 7 days a week. You're gonna be there. It's like, oh yeah, I can handle that. That's no problem. 6 months in, it's like, man, I'm worn out. I'm like, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. So
yeah.
That seems to be the, yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I was just going to say, at my age, I get worn out in 30 days of working that hard. It doesn't take 6 months.
Yeah, no, you can. Yes. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's like usually, at least for me, the first 3 months were kind of the toughest because you're just getting used to something new, and you just,
Yeah.
sometimes you forget that you're just gonna go in and just be in this place for 12 hours.
Well,
But
and
after 3 6 months, you get used to it, and I guess you just
it
keep
gets
doing it.
it just becomes normal, right?
Yes, yes, yes,
You feel normal when you feel like a zombie.
yes.
Right.
That's true.
Kind of like having young kids too, right?
Yes, you'd spend quite a bit of nights sleepless,
Yeah.
and you just get used to it, and then
Yeah.
you just forget what it's like to get a full night of sleep.
Yes, you do. And for all you guys that are on the fence or thinking about getting your business started, I love that advice. And just realize you got to, that you're going to work, and if you're going to make it work, especially a restaurant. Restaurants are extremely difficult, especially on the startup side, and the reward is there, but the work is going to be hard and long hours, and you'll get to the money, but maybe not in the first year.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And I'm giving this advice because I've seen other businesses start, but there are other restaurants that could, a few $1,000,000. Those people, they don't need to be there
Right.
uh, all the time. I'm talking about, somebody like me that, you're starting with a very limited capital, and you don't have the investment to pay a full-time manager or general manager right away,
Yeah.
which is going to take some work.
Yeah, exactly. And that's great advice, because many people think they can jump in the restaurant business and then just hire somebody to run it. And that's not necessarily, even if you have plenty of money, that's not always the best way to start.
Yes, that's true. And sometimes it's just finding the right person. That's also like, you just need to be there yourself to see what, at least like what you need to learn or what you need to teach the person that's going to do the job.
Yeah. And our audience, Bes, is kind of like you. It's made up of we've got some large, some restaurant group listeners, and some of the larger multi-location folks that we talk to and that listen to the show, but probably the larger majority are independent restaurant owners with a single location, that they're the owner chef, the owner operator, the owner
Yes.
mopper, dishwasher, and everything else. And I think that's the reality. And like you said, and somebody else shared a couple of weeks ago, that not being undercapitalized is the reason so many restaurants tend to fail to begin with. So their advice on startup was just have enough money to make it a while before you do it.
You can run out of money quick if if business isn't right.
Yeah,
that's you said it right. I'm curious to know about. Well, you did mention some ways that different restaurants are dealing with right now when it comes to shortage of employees. So you said some places are cutting hours, some places are closing. Is that just like kind of curious what majority of places are doing to deal with those circumstances?
This is not official information, but over the last, especially 4 weeks, I've done a whole lot of interviews and talked with a lot of owners, and the majority, 70-80% are dealing, or have dealt with the staffing issue by cutting hours or cutting days.
Okay.
That has been the two biggest things that I've heard as what we've done differently as a result of not having the staff. And some people have cut out, if they're a lunch dinner, maybe they're cutting out lunch on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, and kind of just doing lunch and dinner Thursday through Sunday or Thursday through Saturday. So, and because, you can't, if you've got 8 employees, 8 front of the house people, for example, and that's how you can seem to get, you no matter how you break up those shifts, you can't work them 80 hours a week necessarily. So,
No, yes,
so the only way to
that's,
make it work is to cut out hours.
yes, that makes sense.
That's what we're seeing because, recruiting and retention is just the retention part is critical. You got to make sure the people that you do have are happy and that you're doing everything
Yeah.
you can for them. I've heard some people talk about, moving toward like a profit sharing kind of thing for valued employees.
Okay.
Some have, some owners have gone as far as it's not like an instant kind of thing, but they especially the ones in the franchise business. There's been several who've made it an option that, if you're with us for 7 years or 6 years or however long, that we will help you get your own franchise, and kind of reduce the cost of the franchise, or maybe reduce the royalties, or help people kind of get into, have a future if they stay.
Okay. Huh. That's interesting.
So just different things like that. Now you got to obviously have the capital to be able to help somebody, put somebody in it. So that's not for everybody.
Yes.
Because you can't just raise pay. It'd be nice to say, hey, I'll just give all of you $30 an hour, or whatever, but you can't do it.
Yeah. So like speaking about that I was also curious, like clearly you talk to many restaurant owners, because with shortage of employees, that eventually the ones that stay or the ones that look at for different jobs, they require more pay.
Yep.
So is that something that other restaurant owners are talking about increasing pay or
for the
benefits?
for the most part, not very few of the ones I talk to are looking at pay increases.
Okay.
Because there's just no margin there. You're already working on such low margins that you're going to have to pass that on. Pass that on to your customer, which you've already got food cost issues. Now you've got staffing costs going up. You can't have everything go up without a significant change in your pricing. So, nobody's had a full perfect solution yet to the staffing piece. It's, doing different things, but just making sure that you're engaged with your employees and they're happy, and they're making a good living. One of the things in the industry is talking about is disparity between back of the house and front of the house pay.
Yes, there is quite a bit of it.
Yeah. So, then there's the whole thing. You've got some places in the country or some businesses that have gone to this no tip, servers who work on salary as opposed to being tipped.
So how do they? So that's very interesting. So how do they? So they pay the server's salary, but do customers leave? Do the customers are customers allowed to leave a tip? They're not.
No, customers aren't allowed to leave a tip, and they're typically not offering to, because the way that the business owner is having to pay for that is to significantly raise food prices.
At least 20%.
Yeah, their food prices are quite a bit higher to compensate for that, but it enables them to get the to pay an equal pay for front and back of the house kind of people or kind of jobs, and they just eliminate the whole tip piece altogether, because customers don't necessarily want to have to pay tips, which sometimes customers think of as wages. They're paying the right wages for the restaurant. But again, if you want to keep your food prices where they are, you can't do that. So that's a big swing when you start talking about taking the tips out of the business and
it is,
and paying servers, and benefits and all that stuff are options. But most independent owners, operators like yourself, my business, I've got there's 3 of us, and I can't afford benefits for people. So that's just how it is. There's not a great solution yet, but we hope if anybody comes up with one and they share it on our show, we're gonna do really well.
Yes, we were just waiting for the right person with the right solution. So servers, I'm just curious to know. But I'm pretty sure if I would ask my servers and told them that, hey, let's move, out of the, let's not do tipping anymore. I'll just pay you a wage. I don't think they would be happy. I'm just
No,
curious to know. I'm curious to know how those servers, those places are handling it,
yeah,
or
it
what
was.
is the quality of service? I'm like, what's the engagement of servers with the table?
Yeah, I would encourage you to. Most of the information I've gotten on people that are doing that have come from stories I've read. In
Okay.
different places. If you go and Google, that topic, you'll start to see, and you'll see some example restaurants and some interviews and articles and all that kind of stuff on how they're dealing with it. Because I'm not an expert by any means in it. I just know that it's a
Yeah.
trend, that there's a lot of conversation about that.
Yeah, well, it would be interesting. I'm sure you can find a person in that industry and interview them. I'm sure
Yep.
would be
Yeah.
something very interesting for a lot of restaurant owners to hear about, to hear that,
Actually,
different perspective.
that is a tremendous idea. I'm going to work on that.
I would be very interested to know like the perspective of the servers, also the restaurant owners who have moved there, but also because when it comes down to, if you don't have happy employees, then you're gonna struggle.
Yeah. Well,
That's
it's
my understanding.
from what I've read, it's the consistency of earnings. If they know they're going to work an 8-hour shift and they're going to make $20 an hour or whatever, that they get a consistent paycheck. Downside, more paycheck may be taxed because it's less of it's not, you don't have the cash tip issue thing going on, which the government would love.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
not good for the employee.
Yes.
So they get that consistency, and from what I can tell, you've got to kind of figure out where that number is so that it's consistent with what they would have made as a tipped employee. If they're taking on, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, speaking about my employees, the servers, they constantly do make over $20 an hour.
Yeah, like, and you would have to pay that salary in whatever that range is to keep them, because they would definitely not be happy.
No, and I don't think customers wouldn't be happy either, because you're just removing the customer's freedom from deciding to give $15 or 15% tip, 20% tip. But like you said, eventually you have to increase the prices at least the amount of if the average is $18 or 18% in tip, then you got to increase your prices by 18%, which not going to make customers happy or employees. But like you said, I'll probably try to find out more and see how it's working for those places.
Yeah, and I'll look for someone to get on the show and see if we can't get the bird's eye comments from somebody that's actually implemented that. To see how it's working. But that's one of the trends out there in the industry. But I appreciate you so much, Bes, for coming on and sharing your experience and your thoughts and ideas and advice, and just to have a chance to meet you and have a great conversation. But I think the information that you shared and the experiences will definitely be helpful to our listeners, and I'm sure they'll be enjoying some of the ideas that you brought forward, and I especially enjoyed it, and I appreciate you taking time to be on here today. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. I'm really happy I was part of it. As I said, I learned some new stuff myself.
It's always good. We always have to learn, right?
Yes, and I hope somebody gets learns something from my perspective.
Yeah, well, and we hope that that's the case as well. And anybody in your area that again hadn't been to Florio's, get down there and enjoy a meal. Get some of that good pasta. If you're a carb person like me, you'll be happy as you can be to be at Florio's. Well, thank you everybody for joining us on the Local Leaders Podcast. I'm Jeff Johnson again, and thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you at our next episode. Thank you.